Okay, team. Today we are going to, today's day one of the synthesis essay. So as most of you know, the synthesis essay is the first essay on the AP Lang test. There are three essay types on the AP Lang exam. The first is a synthesis essay. The second is a rhetorical analysis. This is what you spent most of the time this year working on. It's where you look at an essay or a speech and you analyze the rhetorical moves that an author makes when forming their argument. And the last essay type, which we will discuss later this year, is called the argument essay. Typically, students are given a prompt, some sort of quote or idea or philosophy. It's very short. And they're asked to simply agree with, disagree with, or qualify the statement being made. But for the next few weeks, we are going to focus solely on this new essay, this synthesis essay. So in front of you, you need three documents. You need this white packet that says Synthesis Essay Workshop 1. You need the 2015 AP Lang exam, which is the salmon color. And then you also need the 2014 exam, which is the yellow. Take a minute to organize yourselves. So, very simply, I'm going to take time today to walk us through, number one, what is the synthesis essay? And then number two, how do we break down the prompt page in order to successfully attack both the sources and then the writing of the essays? So, to begin, a little bit of context. Every synthesis essay is set up the exact same way. And what that means is each has a prompt page, as you see here, that outlines the task. For example, this one says question 1 and is broken into 3 paragraphs, as are all prompts. Additionally, the prompt page includes the list of sources that will follow. The synthesis essay essentially is an argument based on sources. Students are always given 6 sources, but they are asked to use a minimum of 3 in their argument. What's going to happen today is I'm actually going to model breaking down the prompt. I ask that you also have your salmon sheet out and you follow along and do exactly what I'm going to do. And then you'll have a chance to work with partners and do the same thing for the yellow packet. Lastly, we'll end class by doing it independently with the white packet. It's important to remember that you need all 3 of these packets with you each day this week. We're going to continue to walk through the whole synthesis process with a teacher model, with partner work, and then lastly, independently with that white packet. So let's begin. I'm going to read the prompt, and please annotate the same way that I annotate. Many high schools, colleges, and universities have honor codes or honor systems, sets of rules or principles that are intended to cultivate integrity. These rules or principles often take the form of written positions on practices like cheating, stealing, and plagiarizing, as well as on the consequences of violating the established codes. So the first paragraph will always give me context or background information. Essentially, the first paragraph is laying the foundation of what exactly is this prompt about. The items that jump off the page for me are honor codes and honor systems. Clearly, we're going to be asked about honor codes and honor systems. These are sets of rules or principles that are intended to cultivate integrity. This word integrity is really important as well because that's the heart of the issue. The second paragraph will outline the prompt. Carefully read the following 6 sources, including the introductory information for each source. Then, synthesize information from at least 3 of the sources and incorporate it into a coherent, well-developed argument for your own position on whether your school should establish, maintain, revise, or eliminate an honor code or honor system. So here, the test presents the specific prompt. And the specific prompt is here. Whether your school should establish, maintain, revise, or eliminate an honor code or honor system. That's the question that I need to answer. I also must use at least 3 sources and turn it into, like I said before, an argument. This is not a summary. This is not an expository, informative piece. We are writing an argument, something you're very familiar with. You should be very familiar with through your practice in composition class and some other writing that you've done over the years. The last paragraph is always set up the same as well and includes some of the details of the assignment. The most important line from this section is, your argument should be the focus of your essay. Special emphasis on your argument. We are not summarizing. We don't want to pick the best argument from those already listed. We want to create our own unique argument. Use the sources to develop your argument and explain the reasoning for it. Avoid merely, really important, avoid summarizing the sources. Indicate clearly which sources you are drawing from, whether through direct quotation, paraphrase, or summary. You may cite the sources as source A, source B, etc., or by using the descriptions in parentheses. So like I said before, every single synthesis prompt is set up exactly the same way. You're given 3 paragraphs, one with background information, the next with the specific prompt, and lastly with additional details. You are also presented with all of the source information on page 1. I want to leave this space in the middle of your page blank. We're going to revisit that over the next few days. So next, we want to go through and answer a series of questions that respond to the prompt. Because of the time-sensitive nature of writing for this exam, you only have 40 minutes to write the essay. It's important that we understand, digest, and then act on the prompt as quickly as possible. So the first question we want to ask is, who's involved? Who exactly does this prompt address, or is it intended for? I'm taking a look at, this is where I really want to pay attention to the context paragraph. So it says high school, colleges, and universities. So we have high school students, teachers, maybe some parents. We also have colleges and universities. We also have maybe some principals or deans. Anybody involved in the high school process. The next question is a little bit more specific than who's involved. It's who cares the most immediately. Oftentimes, it's a really easy pitfall to just say something like society. Of course society cares, right? Like, oh, society, cares about integrity. Of course they care about this. No, we want to avoid the word society, and we want to be much more specific. So who cares the most immediately? In my opinion, honor codes for high school students and college students would impact students and teachers or faculty the most immediately. Because these are the folks that it affects and impacts on a daily basis. So while teachers may be impacted, while university admissions may be impacted, while principals and deans are even impacted, I would argue that students, because it informs their decision making or can inform their decision making, and then teachers and faculty are affected the most immediately. The next question we want to answer, is what is the topic? And this is kind of twofold, the explicit and implicit topic. The explicit topic is honor codes, right? That's the most obvious and clear topic. But what is this really about? I would argue it's really about integrity. All right? Integrity lies at the heart of honor codes. Now, honor codes is a much more concrete idea, whereas integrity is more abstract. While some prompts in some topics, like this, do have an abstract element, not all prompts include an abstract. Some are simply about honor codes, whereas this one, you could argue, is also about integrity. Why is this important? Let's frame the conversation. Why is this important? Because we have maybe it's a moral consideration, ethical consideration. We have rules and regulations. We have graduation, college considerations. All of these are reasons why this discussion is important. Lastly, what are the potential arguments? So I go back. This is where I go back up into the second paragraph, because these are where the potential. This is where the question is. Excuse me. So the potential arguments are laid out for me here. I can either establish, maintain, revise, or eliminate. So I want to rewrite those here, maybe a little bit more friendly terms. So I want to create an honor code. I can keep it the same. I can revise it. Or I can get rid of it altogether. These are my potential arguments. I want to be as specific as possible. So this is how we break down the prompt specifically. This is the first step to accessing the synthesis question. Once I've done all of this, which, as we do it more frequently, will become much more quicker. We become much more quick. We want to go back through and we want to make sure that we are clear on the potential arguments. We want to have our first blush reaction. So up in the top right, I would like you to write first reaction. So as I consider this, even before I read any of the source material, I want to write my first reaction because this is relevant. I'm a teacher. You're students. Almost all of the synthesis questions I've seen in the past, like I said, this is from the 2015 exam. Typically the topic deals with real world, relevant topics. So almost always you'll have an initial first blush reaction. My first blush reaction is, based on my experiences, that we should revise our honor code to include harsher penalties. So that's my first blush reaction. Now, it's really important to establish a first blush reaction. There are a couple things I would like to point out here. There are both pros and cons. So the main benefit of a first reaction is that you are so much less likely to just summarize one of the sources if you have your own unique argument to start. If I did not have a first reaction and I read the following sources, I am much more likely to just piggyback off of what somebody else is saying. And that would directly contradict both of these points in paragraph 3, that my argument needs to be the focus and that I need to not summarize the sources. So that's a positive, that's a pro, that's a benefit of having a first reaction. On the flip side, a potential danger of a first reaction, and I want to name this so we avoid it, is that sometimes we can become tied way too closely to our first reaction and unwilling to change our minds. Now, I want to be very clear. The best essays consider both sides of the argument and then ultimately land the plane on their side. So as you read the following sources, it's really important that you continue to go back and revise your first reaction. The analogy I like to draw is when you're sitting around talking with your friends. Say you're at the lunch table and you are discussing like what the best movie out is right now. If 6 of my friends have an opinion and they're each unique, and I simply repeat or summarize the conversation happening. I'm not adding anything to that conversation. I'm not forming an argument. However, if I have my first reaction and I believe movie A is the best movie for this reason or that reason, over time, throughout that lunchtime discussion, the hope is that my argument, my opinion will change slightly, maybe completely, based on what I'm hearing at that table. That's essentially what's happening here. We're about to sit down at a lunch table, and we have 6 people presenting their arguments. And it's up to us to not summarize the argument, but add to the conversation and hopefully convince everybody that our argument is the best argument. So, folks, this is essentially what we're being asked to do as we start the synthesis essay. So what I would like to ask you to do now is transition to the yellow packet here. So what I'd like you to do is annotate this exactly how we annotated the salmon packet. So you're going to go through and pull out the most important terms and ideas from the first paragraph, then identify the prompt and any important information in the second paragraph, and lastly, identify any important information from the third paragraph. Once you've done that, I would ask you to address each one of these questions in the yellow packet. Before moving on, then create your own first reaction and write it in the top right-hand corner. It's essential that you are as specific as possible in each one of these steps. The reason being, you have a short amount of time to write this essay. The more narrow our scope is, and the more focused and direct our potential argument is, the more clear that message will become the more we read. So you're going to work with a partner or in small groups, no more than 3, and quietly read the prompt and annotate exactly as we did. This should take no more than 8 minutes. When 8 minutes is up, please share out of the class and come to a consensus. Once you're done with that, I would ask you to move to silent independent work. So you're going to transition to this packet here. It says Synthesis Essay Workshop 1. So this is your individual practice. This is where I get an opportunity to see, are we getting it? You know, who's moving along really, really well on this first step? Who needs a little bit extra support? Because I believe it's really important that we identify where our strengths and weaknesses are early on so that we can best support all our kids. So please, with the last 5 to 7 minutes of class, go back in and annotate this prompt and answer the same questions on the bottom of the sheet. This must be done for class on Wednesday. I'm collecting nothing today. However, you will be receiving a classwork grade for your work ethic today and participation in the activity. So as long as you are following along, taking all the notes, working with a partner and completing all the annotations, and then completing this page independently, silent and solo, you should be on the right track. Remember, bring all 3 of these packets with you each and every day this week as we are going to start exploring and investigating the source material. And then also, we're going to begin outlining the essay on Thursday. If you have any questions, it's important that you reach out directly to me. And my email is davidconstant@achievementfirst.org. Or, if you feel more comfortable, which I'm happy to welcome anybody to my office, you can come by my office. It's in room 223. So it's by the elevator on the 2nd floor. Please reach out with questions. Thanks for listening, and have a nice day.